Yo guys, welcome back to a brand new video. Today I'm going to be ranking the top 10 brawlers that need hypercharge buffs. Now the first brawler I'm going to be talking about is Pearl. Pearl's hypercharge is one of the first hypercharges they ever added into the game, and it's always been trash. You've probably heard this 1,000 times before, but the reason Pearl's hypercharge is so ass is because it pushes people out of the fire range. With your hypercharge, you drop a field of fire wherever your super lands. However, you then knock your enemies straight out of that fire, making it kinda useless. It's not completely useless, but it's counterproductive for sure. I think with Pearl I can only see a hypercharge buff going one way, and that is a complete rework. And the rework I would propose in this case would be to make her super have more range. It's a pretty simple hypercharge thing that a lot of other brawlers have also had, for example Tara. But it's actually going to be really good on Pearl in my opinion, because her whole hypercharge can break walls, and now you have an even larger radius you can knock back on. With this new reworked hypercharge, it would be easier to get team wipes for Pearl, and honestly it would give her hypercharge something other than the little speed boost. Pearl has always been a really solid all-round brawler, but her hypercharge just doesn't match her kit in the slightest. And I think simply changing her hypercharge from fire to a range boost would be enough. Now next up is Sprout, who probably has the worst hypercharge in the game. I'm not even going to lie, that shit is absolutely awful. It does 500 damage to enemies standing really close to the middle part of the wall. If you put down a wall that connects to a bunch of other walls, it won't spread the damage. This hypercharge is only really good with transplant, because once you take away your super, a circle stays behind that does 2500 damage. You don't get access to this in any other way other than with transplant for some reason. It's such a weird mechanic. In my opinion, they should change Sprout's hypercharge to simply boost his damage by 30% when Sprout is within close proximity to it. Because it's much more logical for Sprout to be hugging his own wall than for enemies to be hugging it, considering that Sprout is a thrower. This hypercharge has been flawed since the day it has been added, and it hasn't even gotten a little buff. Like Brock's hypercharge was trash and it got a buff. But they're not even looking at Sprout's one, and that's low-key because it needs a rework. So make the wall boost Sprout's damage kind of like an 8-bit station. Next up we have Chuck, and I actually think his hypercharge is really interesting and it could be really good. The part where he can dash to his post from any range is really good in my opinion, and can be used for some nice heist setups. However, I think the smoke coming out of the sides is absolutely dreadful, because it only does 180 damage. Why would you make it tickle like this? Like, at least make it 500 damage. It would still be trash, by the way, at 500 damage, but at least give it something more. Because right now it's literally just, it prevents opponents from healing. That's all it does. I think Chuck should be shooting smoke more frequently. I'm talking about like 4 times per second at least. And his smoke should be doing more damage. 500 at least. Because as it is right now, that smoke is just useful. It's just there for visual effect only. The concept of being able to dash to your post from any range is really interesting and can be used for some nice setups. But the smoke part of this hypercharge is just so ass, bro. It's so ass. It also doesn't charge over time, which I find really strange considering it's really not that strong. I don't know, this is just, when I heard Chuck was getting a hypercharge, I was so excited, and when I saw what it did, I've never been so disappointed. Well, actually I have been with the next brawler. Now, Nani's hypercharge I just don't even know where to start, because this hypercharge does not increase his explosion radius. It doesn't increase his damage any more than a normal hypercharge would. And to be quite honest, the effect that it does have is pretty trash. It enlarges the projectile the further it goes. Oh great, so this hypercharge, all it does is it makes your super easier to hit. Not only that, but it actually also makes it easier to hit a wall. So it actually has, it's not even a full buff, it's a double-edged sword. Just Supercell, just why? Why would you do this? You could just simply give the hypercharge a damage boost. Like, at this point, that's what Nani needs, you know. Have like an even stronger super that can actually one-shot people. That's what a hypercharge should do for her. Especially since all hypercharges have been nerfed, like globally. So even Nani's hypercharge doesn't have the 25% damage boost it used to have, which actually kind of made it still viable. No, they removed that and now it just has nothing. I honestly think giving Nani's robot, Peep, a 30% damage boost when it's hypercharging, that would already be enough. Stuff like this can make these brawlers viable, instead of just giving Nani a bigger projectile. That virtually adds nothing, because if you're a good Brawl Stars player, you're hitting your shots and it doesn't matter. Now, the next brawler is Belle, and her hypercharge simply makes her next super magnetic, meaning that it will home in on brawlers, and it also has a slight bit of extra range. Now, it's basically just homemade recipe, but with Belle's super. I think they could do a whole lot more. I think they could do something with this, like make the enemy who got the mark also do less damage. That would be really interesting, you know. Or make the enemy who got the mark receive less healing. Even with the extra range, I think this hypercharge is really boring, and it would benefit from having another effect added onto it instead of just making the original effect easier to apply. Because that doesn't do anything in the long run. It just makes that one shot easier. I just think it's really bad design philosophy, especially for an ability like a hypercharge, which is sort of supposed to be like an end-all be-all. You're building up to one big hypercharge. With Belle, that is very underwhelming. My proposal would be to make the enemy who's been marked also receive 50% less healing. That would make her hypercharge way stronger and just remove the whole magnetic thing. Who needs that? Who needs that even? Now, Jean is next up, and Jean's hypercharge gives him 3 hands. And that really just doesn't work with his ability, because it requires the enemies to be in a specific angle from each other. You rarely get any value from it.
Like the video now!
In my opinion, the idea of grabbing an entire team is pretty interesting, but it just doesn't work in this way. I suggest reworking Jean's hypercharge to become a piercing hand who not only pulls a brawler whenever it hits them, but while pulling that brawler also goes through like it normally would, pulling any other brawlers behind it as well. In my opinion, this would be a lot easier to line up too. You could just simply get 2 brawlers in a line within the range of your super and pull them both, rather than having to sort of line up this weird angle. It just, on paper, it does sound like, oh yeah, you're gonna be able to pull 2 people at once, but in practice, a lot of the times, life just doesn't work out that way, because hitting 1 gene pool is already hard enough. Hitting 2 at the same time on different locations, nah bro, you're not gonna be able to do that. That's why I think the piercing hand would be much better. Now, the next brawler is going to be Miko, and he is on this list for a very interesting reason, because Miko is a brawler that inherently is built on counter-picking throwers and counter-picking like sniper builds, and he's more of a threatening presence rather than an actual damage dealer for your team. And for that reason, Miko often doesn't charge his hypercharge. Like you'll be playing Miko and in 1 out of 10 games you get your hypercharge, because most of the time you're just pressuring. Now, I think it would be really interesting to rework Miko's hypercharge charging mechanic. How about Miko has a circle around him that charges his hypercharge whenever brawlers are in it? Not his super, just his hypercharge. Because usually as Miko, you're charging 1 super per game tops, like maybe 2 supers per game, but you're mostly just evading bullets and pressuring people into corners for your other teammates to finish. It's basically a hypercharge you never charge, and I think having a hypercharge charging circle around it would help that, and it would also make Miko even more unique than he already is. It could be a new trait they add, and they could also add this trait to some other brawlers who might need it, for example Sam or something. The next brawler, Clancy's hypercharge, in my opinion has always been a little underwhelming. His projectiles just return to him. I mean, he already does so much damage, the brawlers are probably going to be dead. If Clancy has his hypercharge, he also has his stage 3. Meaning that he's going to be easily able to kill brawlers with that super. In my opinion, instead, what the hypercharge should do is grant him a speed boost after using his super, because this way Clancy would be able to hop from enemy to enemy way easier. Considering he recharges his super quite frequently in his third form, this would be really interesting, allowing his hypercharge to sort of give him like this zooming around the map power instead of just more damage, which he already has plenty of when he's in his third stage. Now the next brawler, Alli, is in a really weird spot because she's pretty strong, but I think her hypercharge adds almost nothing to her kit. Alli's super has this weird mechanic where her next attack will do more damage if an enemy brawler is high health. And if they're then at 20% health, for example, the super won't add that much damage at all. Sort of like Colette, and with her hypercharge she always does maximum damage. So say your enemy is 30% health, the next attack would do damage as if they were 100% health, so more damage. This is just so, like, weak. You'd expect this to be like a gadget, not a fucking hypercharge. I think they could keep the effect, I guess, because it can be good in some situations. If a tank is low, it can allow you to one-shot instead of two-shot them. But in most scenarios, you won't get a lot of use out of it. And I think for that reason, the hypercharge should be changed to also making Alli's next attack always be a jump. If a map doesn't have water or bushes, Alli's just not going to be able to jump. And I think this hypercharge rework would allow her to do that in a cool way. You could even say the hypercharge should be Alli can only now jump when she's using her super. Honestly, both of those ideas are fine in my opinion. But if you're gonna make her only able to jump, I think that adding damage mechanics should just be the way the normal super is. I don't think the mechanic they have in place now would be fair. Now, the last brawler on my list is going to be Lola, because her hypercharge is fucking boring, alright? It adds like a little bit of health, a little bit of damage. It is garbage. Please make it better. And what would make it better? In my opinion, removing the damage nerf that the ego gets would definitely be a way better hypercharge. This would make Lola like the original Lola, which was super busted. But as a hypercharge it could work because it's only a once per game thing. I think if they just remove the extra health from Lola's hypercharge and make her ego do the same damage as her, basically just a damage doubler, that would be way sicker. Because at the end of the day, it's still very vulnerable. The ego can die to any type of splash damage or any type of thrower damage. Or, I mean, if it's like 5000 HP, even less I think, so it won't be that strong. Especially in a meta like this, like back when Lola was added, there weren't this many brawlers, okay? Now there's a lot of things that can counter that ego. Anyways guys, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. Let me know if there's any changes you would make to my list, any suggestions you have for future lists. And yeah, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace!